They invited the simple black cleaning lady to the CEO's wedding as a joke, laughed about it in the break room, whispered about how she'd show up in her worn-out clothes, confused by the black tie invitation, humiliate herself in front of everyone. What they didn't know was that 20 years ago, before grief broke her, before loss stole everything, the woman scrubbing their toilets had been someone they would have fought to impress. And when she walked into that ballroom in a gown that cost more than their cars, when recognition flickered across faces that had dismissed her for years, when her real name was spoken aloud for the first time in 2 decades, the CEO's wife learned a lesson about underestimating quiet people. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time is it in your city. I want to know how far the videos travel. Hit subscribe because what happens next is going to redefine what power actually looks like. Grace Williams pushed her cleaning cart down the executive floor of Meridian Industries, her movements practiced and invisible. After 4 years working the night shift, she'd perfected the art of being unseen. Head down, earbuds in, hands busy. The executives who worked on this floor barely registered her existence beyond occasionally leaving notes about coffee stains or requesting extra trash bags. She preferred it that way. Invisibility was safer than visibility. Quieter. Less complicated. Grace, wait up. She turned to see Marcus, one of the few kind people in the building, a junior marketing associate who always said thank you and occasionally left her candy bars with little notes that said, "Thanks for keeping our space clean." "Hey Marcus," Grace said, pulling out one earbud. "I wanted to give you this before I forgot." He handed her a cream-colored envelope, expensive cardstock that felt heavy in her hands. "It's from Mrs. Whitmore. She's organizing the wedding for CEO Victoria Ashford and wanted to make sure everyone got an invitation." Grace stared at the envelope, her name written in elegant calligraphy, Ms. Grace Williams. Everyone. Well, all the staff. I think Mrs. Whitmore wanted to be inclusive. Marcus's tone suggested he found this suspicious, and he should. Cassandra Whitmore, the CEO's executive assistant and self-appointed wedding planner, was many things, but inclusive wasn't one of them. After Marcus left, Grace opened the envelope carefully. Inside was an invitation to Victoria Ashford and Jonathan Chen's wedding at the Grandview Plaza Hotel. Black tie. RSVP required. Grace's hands trembled slightly as she read it. She knew exactly what this was. Had heard Cassandra and her circle laughing about it in the break room last week when they thought Grace was in the supply closet. Can you imagine? Grace the janitor at a black tie wedding? She probably doesn't even know what black tie means. She'll show up in her Sunday church clothes thinking she looks fancy. It'll be hilarious. Victoria said we should invite all staff, so technically we have to invite her. But no one actually expects her to come. And if she does, well, it'll be entertaining. Grace had learned to make herself small in those moments. To pretend she didn't hear. To let the cruelty wash over her like water, not letting it sink in, not letting it matter. But standing in that empty executive hallway at midnight, holding an invitation designed to humiliate her, something shifted inside Grace Williams. Something that had been sleeping for 20 years began to wake up. She thought about the woman she used to be. The woman who'd walked into rooms and commanded attention without saying a word. The woman who'd built something meaningful from nothing. The woman she'd buried along with her family. Grace Williams had spent 2 decades running from that woman. Hiding from the memories that hurt too much to face. Choosing invisibility over the pain of being seen. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop running. Grace's studio apartment was small but meticulously organized. Everything in its place, nothing wasted, nothing excessive. She'd learned to live with less, to need less, to be less. But in the back of her closet, behind the uniform shirts and practical shoes, was a box she hadn't opened in 20 years. Grace pulled it out now, sitting cross-legged on her bedroom floor at 2 a.m., unable to sleep after her shift. The box was sealed with packing tape that had yellowed with age. Her hand shook as she cut through it. Inside were remnants of a life that felt like it belonged to someone else entirely. Photographs first. Grace barely recognized the woman in these pictures. Younger, yes, but also fundamentally different. Confident. Radiant. Wearing tailored suits and genuine smiles. Standing in front of a building with a Debio foundation etched in stone above the entrance. Anna Adebayo. That had been her name. Her real name. Before she'd become Grace Williams. Before she'd chosen invisibility and safety over visibility and risk. There were newspaper clippings too. Adebayo Foundation celebrates 10th anniversary. Anna Adebayo named Humanitarian of the Year. Local foundation transforms educational access for underserved communities. Grace, Anna, traced her fingers over these headlines, remembering the woman who'd earned them. The woman who'd inherited her family's foundation at 25 and had expanded it beyond anything her parents had dreamed. Who'd raised millions, changed thousands of lives, who'd been recognized and celebrated and respected. And then the accident. Her parents, killed by a drunk driver on their way home from a foundation gala. Her younger brother, lost to complications from injuries sustained in the same crash 3 months later. Within a year, Anna Adebayo had lost everyone she loved. The foundation, built on family, sustained by family, had felt impossible to continue alone. The board had wanted to absorb it into a larger organization. Anna had been too broken to fight. She'd signed the papers, scattered her family's ashes, and disappeared. Became Grace Williams. Took jobs that required no emotional investment. Built a life so small and quiet that grief couldn't find all the corners to fill. And for 20 years, it had worked. She'd survived. Kept breathing. Kept moving. But surviving wasn't the same as living. And Grace was starting to remember what living had felt like. At the bottom of the box was a garment bag. Grace unzipped it carefully, and silk spilled out. A black evening gown she'd worn to the last foundation gala before everything fell apart. Custom made by a designer who'd been a friend. Elegant. Timeless. Expensive. Grace held the dress up to herself, looking in the mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger, 48 years old with graying hair and lines around her eyes, wearing worn pajamas in a studio apartment, holding a gown that had cost more than she now made in 6 months. But underneath the years and the grief and the chosen invisibility, Anna Adebayo was still there. Waiting. Ready. Grace picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts, mostly just work connections, food delivery apps, her landlord. But there, saved under a nickname from 20 years ago, was a number she'd never deleted, Janet Fab. Janet Okonkwo had been Anna's best friend. A brilliant fashion designer who'd started with a small boutique and had grown it into a respected brand. They'd been inseparable until Anna had ghosted everyone she knew, too broken to explain, too ashamed to let anyone see her fall apart. Grace stared at the number. It was 2:30 a.m. This was insane. She pressed call before she could talk herself out of it. The phone rang 4 times. Grace was about to hang up when a voice answered, groggy but instantly alert the way mothers learn to be. Hello. Janet. It's Anna. Anna Adebayo. Silence. Then, Anna? Oh my God. Anna, where have you been? It's been 20 years. I tried to find you, we all tried, but you just vanished. I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I wasn't. Grace felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I needed to disappear for a while. 20 years is more than a while, Anna. I know. More silence. Then Janet's voice, softer. Are you okay? Where are you? What do you need? And just like that, Grace remembered why Janet had been her best friend. No judgment. No demands for explanation. Just immediate care and concern. I need your help, Grace said. I need to be Anna Adebayo again. Just for one night. Can you help me do that? Tell me when and where, Janet said immediately. I'll bring my whole studio if that's what it takes. Janet arrived at Grace's apartment the next afternoon with 3 assistants, a rack of clothing, 2 makeup cases, and enough energy to power a small city. She stopped short when she saw Grace, her eyes filling with tears. Anna. Oh, Anna, look at you. I know. I look beautiful, older, tired, but still you. Janet pulled her into a fierce hug. I have missed you so much. Every year on your birthday, I'd toast to you, hoping you were okay wherever you were. And now here you are, and I'm not letting you disappear again, understood? Grace, Anna, nodded against Janet's shoulder, feeling something crack open inside her chest. Now, Janet said, pulling back and wiping her eyes, tell me about this event. Because when you called talking about being Anna Adebayo for one night, I knew something important was happening. Anna explained the invitation, the cruel joke, Cassandra Whitmore's mockery. She explained 4 years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of being treated like she didn't matter. And you're going to show them who you really are, Janet said, her eyes gleaming with something fierce. You're going to walk into that wedding and remind everyone, including yourself, that Grace Williams might be quiet, but Anna Adebayo never needed to be loud to be powerful. Over the next 3 hours, Janet worked magic. She insisted Anna keep her natural hair, grey streaks and all, but styled it in an elegant updo that was both sophisticated and authentic. The makeup was subtle but transformative, highlighting bone structure and bringing warmth back to Anna's face. And the dress. Janet had broad options, but when she saw the black gown from Anna's foundation days, she insisted that was the one. This dress has history, Janet said as she pinned and adjusted, making alterations to account for 20 years of changes. This dress knows who you are. And when you walk into that wedding, everyone else will know too. The final touch was jewelry. Janet insisted on lending pieces from her personal collection. A simple but stunning diamond necklace. Matching earrings. A ring that had belonged to Janet's grandmother. For courage, Janet said, slipping the ring onto Anna's finger. For remembering that you come from strong women who didn't shrink for anyone. When Anna finally looked in the mirror, really looked, she saw someone she'd almost forgotten. Not the young woman from 20 years ago, but someone better. Someone who'd survived loss and grief and chosen invisibility, and was now choosing visibility again. On her own terms. Thank you, Anna whispered. Thank you for calling me, Janet countered. Now let's go remind some people why underestimating quiet women is always a mistake. The Grandview Plaza Hotel was exactly the kind of ostentatious venue Anna had expected. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, a string quartet playing in the foyer. Guests in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos circulated with practiced elegance. Anna arrived in the car service Janet had insisted on arranging. As the driver opened her door, she took a deep breath, channeling the woman she used to be, the one who'd walked into rooms full of wealthy donors and convinced them to invest in education for children they'd never meet. The moment she stepped into the lobby, heads turned. The black gown moved like water, the diamonds caught the light, and Anna carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged everywhere because she'd long ago stopped seeking permission to exist. She could see the confusion on faces, recognition without placement. They'd seen Grace Williams scrubbing floors, emptying trash, being invisible. They couldn't quite reconcile that woman with this one. Anna moved through the lobby toward the ballroom, and the reactions intensified. Whispers followed her. Phones came out, not to mock, but to capture, to document, to figure out who this woman was. In the ballroom, the wedding was in full celebration mode. Victoria Ashford, the CEO, and her new husband were accepting congratulations. And there, near the front, holding court like a queen, was Cassandra Whitmore. Cassandra saw Anna and did a literal double-take. Her champagne glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Her eyes widened with shock and something else, the dawning realization that her cruel joke had backfired spectacularly. Anna walked directly toward her, and the crowd parted like water. "Good evening, Mrs. Whitmore," Anna said, her voice clear and calm. "Thank you for the invitation. It was very thoughtful of you." Cassandra's mouth opened and closed. "Grace? Is that... How did you?" "Actually," said a voice from behind Anna, "that's not Grace Williams." Anna turned to see an elderly man in an expensive suit, someone whose face triggered immediate recognition. Dr. Gerald Preston. He'd been on the Adebayo Foundation board. Had fought to keep the foundation independent when Anna had wanted to dissolve it. "Dr. Preston," Anna said, surprised. "Anna Adebayo," Dr. Preston said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. He took her hand, his eyes shining with emotion. "My dear girl, I thought I'd never see you again. When you disappeared 20 years ago, we all feared the worst." The whispers intensified. People pulled out phones, clearly searching Anna Adebayo. "You know her?" Cassandra asked weakly. "Know her?" Dr. Preston looked at Cassandra with barely concealed disdain. This woman built one of the most respected humanitarian foundations in the state. The Adebayo Foundation changed thousands of lives. Anna was recognized nationally for her work in education and community development. She was brilliant, generous, and accomplished more by 30 than most do in a lifetime. The crowd had grown silent, everyone listening. "After her family died in that terrible accident," Dr. Preston continued, his voice gentle now, "Anna stepped away from public life. I've wondered about her every day since. And here you are, Working as a janitor? Anna, why? Anna looked around the ballroom, at the faces staring at her with newfound respect and curiosity, at Cassandra's humiliated expression, at Victoria Ashford making her way over with clear interest. Because, Anna said clearly, I needed to remember that your value as a human being isn't determined by your title or your bank account. It's determined by who you are when no one important is watching. When you think no one sees you. That's when your real character shows. She looked directly at Cassandra. I've spent 4 years being invisible in your building. And in that invisibility, I've seen who people really are. I've seen kindness from people in entry-level positions. And I've seen cruelty from people in executive offices. I've learned that true dignity has nothing to do with the size of your paycheck. This invitation, Anna continued, her voice strong, was designed to humiliate me. You thought I'd show up confused and underdressed, that I'd be a source of entertainment. A joke. The poor janitor who doesn't know her place. Cassandra had gone pale. Around them, phones were absolutely out now, recording. But what you didn't understand, Anna said, is that I've always known my place. My place is wherever I choose to stand. And I chose to be invisible for 20 years because I was healing from loss you can't imagine. Not because I was less than you. Never because I was less. The ballroom was utterly silent. The real question, Anna said, her eyes sweeping the crowd, is whether any of you will remember this the next time you see someone in a service position. Will you remember that the person cleaning your office might be someone who chose humility? That the person serving your food might have a PhD? That invisibility isn't the same as worthlessness. Dr. Preston started applauding. Slowly, others joined until the ballroom erupted in applause, not polite golf claps, but genuine moved appreciation. Cassandra Whitmore, humiliated beyond recovery, grabbed her purse and practically ran from the ballroom. Her friends followed, equally mortified. Victoria Ashford approached Anna, extending her hand. Ms. Adebayo, I had no idea. I apologize for. You didn't know because you never asked, Anna interrupted gently. That's the lesson here. Not humiliation or revenge. Just the simple truth that everyone you meet knows something you don't. Everyone has a story. And treating people with dignity costs nothing but means everything. The rest of the wedding became less about the bride and groom and more about Anna Adebayo's unexpected return. Person after person approached her, some who'd known her before, others who just Googled her and were amazed, still others who simply wanted to thank her for what she'd said. Dr. Preston stayed close, clearly unwilling to let her disappear again. The foundation still exists, he told her. After you left, we couldn't bear to dissolve it completely. A small board has been maintaining it, running modest programs, hoping you'd come back someday. Dr. Preston, I can't. I'm not asking you to come back, he interrupted. I'm just telling you it's there. Your family's legacy is still alive. Still making a difference. Smaller than it was, yes. But the bones are good. Strong. Waiting. Later, Janet appeared with champagne and a knowing smile. So, how does it feel to be Anna Adebayo again? Terrifying, Anna admitted. I've spent 20 years being small and quiet and safe. This feels like standing naked in a spotlight. You're not naked. You're armored in truth. And Anna, you don't have to stay Anna Adebayo full-time. You don't owe anyone a grand comeback or a return to public life. But you also don't have to keep being invisible if invisibility doesn't serve you anymore. That thought settled over Anna like a revelation. She didn't have to choose between Grace Williams, the janitor, and Anna Adebayo, the foundation director. She could be something new entirely. Someone who integrated both experiences, both identities. Someone who understood both power and humility, both visibility and invisibility. A woman approached Anna hesitantly, young, black, wearing a name tag that identified her as hotel catering staff. Ms. Adebayo. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, what you said about dignity and service positions, that meant a lot. I'm working 3 jobs trying to get through nursing school, and sometimes I feel invisible too. But you helped me remember that invisible doesn't mean worthless. Thank you. Anna took the young woman's hand. What's your name? Shanice. Shanice Johnson. Shanice, what year are you in nursing school? 2nd year. Still have 2 to go. Anna pulled out one of the business cards Janet had insisted she take. Simple cards with just her name and email. Email me tomorrow. I'd like to talk to you about the Ada Bio Foundation. We used to have an educational support program. Maybe it's time to start it again. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. Really? You'd do that? Education access is why the foundation existed. People like you, working hard, invisible to those who should be helping. That's exactly who my parents wanted to support. After Shanice left, Anna turned to find Dr. Preston watching with undisguised hope. You're coming back. Maybe, Anna said, but differently than before. I don't want to run a massive organization again. I don't want gala S and recognition and pressure. But I think I can do something. Something smaller. More direct. More personal. Whatever you want to build, Dr. Preston said. The foundation's resources are at your disposal. And Anna, I'm so glad you're back. Marcus, the kind marketing associate who'd given Anna the invitation, approached nervously. Ms. Ada Bio, or should I call you Grace? I don't know the protocol here. Anna is fine, she said warmly. I just wanted to apologize. I had no idea Mrs. Whitmore invited you as a joke. If I'd known, I never would have delivered that invitation. I'm so sorry. Marcus, you have nothing to apologize for. You've been kind to me every single day for 4 years. You saw Grace Williams and treated her with dignity. That matters more than knowing my history. Will you keep working at Meridian? He asked. Anna considered this. Honestly? I don't know. I need to figure out what the next chapter looks like. But whether I'm there or not, keep being kind, Marcus. The world needs more people like you. As the evening wound down, Janet and Anna sat together at a table, watching the remaining guests dance and celebrate. What now? Janet asked. Now I figure out who I am when I'm not hiding from grief or performing success. I think I'd like to restart the Foundation's educational program, small scale, direct impact. Maybe provide support for people like Shanice, like Grace Williams would have needed if she'd been real. Grace Williams is real, Janet corrected. She's part of you. The quiet strength, the humility, the understanding of what it means to be invisible, that's all real. You're just adding Anna Ada Bio back into the mix. Anna Grace Williams Ada Bio, Anna said, testing it out. That's a mouthful. That's a woman who's lived a full, complicated, beautiful life, Janet countered. Own all of it. Anna thought about Cassandra Whitmore, who tried to humiliate a janitor and instead exposed her own cruelty. Thought about all the people who dismissed Grace Williams without seeing her. Thought about the young woman she'd been, the broken woman she'd become, and the integrated woman she was becoming. You know what the funny thing is? Anna said. If Cassandra hadn't sent that invitation, if she hadn't tried to make me a joke, I might have stayed invisible forever. Her cruelty accidentally gave me the push I needed to stop hiding. So, in a way, you should thank her, Janet teased. I don't know about that. But I can acknowledge that sometimes the worst things people do to us end up leading to the best things we do for ourselves. As they prepared to leave, Victoria Ashford approached one final time. Ms. Ada Bio, I wanted to extend a formal apology on behalf of Meridian Industries. Mrs. Whitmore's behavior was completely unacceptable, and she'll be facing consequences. But more than that, I wanted to offer you a position on our Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board. We clearly need help building a culture that values all employees. I appreciate the offer, Anna said, but I think my path lies elsewhere. However, I'd be happy to recommend someone brilliant for that position. She thought of Shanice, of Marcus, of all the invisible people who understood both power and humility. Actually, I might have several recommendations. In the car back to her apartment, which suddenly felt too small, too dark, too much like hiding, Anna made a decision. Janet, would you help me with something else? Anything. I want to find a new place to live. Something that feels like Anna Ada Bio and Grace Williams both live there. Not huge, but not hiding either. Can you help? Already texting my realtor friend, Janet said, phone in hand. We are going to find you a home that feels like all of you. And Anna, I'm not letting you disappear again. We are having weekly dinners.
Non negotiable.
I'd like that, Anna said, meaning it. As they drove through the city, Anna looked out at the lights and felt something she hadn't felt in 20 years, possibility. Not the burden of grand expectations or the weight of other people's perceptions. Just simple, open-ended possibility. Grace Williams had taught her how to be humble, how to serve without seeking recognition, how to find dignity in invisible work. Anna Adebayo had taught her how to build something meaningful, how to lead with vision, how to use privilege and resources for good. And whoever she was becoming, this integrated woman with grey in her hair and diamonds borrowed from a best friend who'd waited 20 years for her return. She was teaching herself that you didn't have to choose between humility and power. You could be both. You could be whole. 3 weeks later, Anna stood in the modest but beautiful office space she'd rented, the new home of the Adebayo Educational Initiative. Not a foundation, not yet. Just a simple program supporting people like Shanice. Like Grace Williams would have been, if she'd been real. Dr. Preston had helped connect her with donors. Janet had helped with branding and visibility. Marcus had volunteered to help with social media and outreach. And Cassandra Whitmore's cruel invitation had accidentally launched something beautiful. Anna looked at the sign on the door, simple, elegant, true, Adebayo Educational Initiative, supporting invisible strivers. She thought about the wedding, about the moment when her two identities collided and created something new. About Cassandra's humiliation and Victoria's surprise and Dr. Preston's joy. But mostly she thought about Shanice and the scholarship check she delivered that morning. About the young woman's tears and gratitude. About the invisible strivers who would benefit from a program built by someone who understood both power and humility. Grace Williams had been a disguise. Anna Adebayo had been a performance. But whoever she was now, this woman with grey in her hair and diamonds in her jewelry box and a modest office where important work would happen, she was finally, completely, authentically herself. And that was worth more than any gala, any foundation, any recognition. That was freedom. If you made it to the end of Anna's journey, you already know this isn't just about a wedding or revenge. This is about every person who's ever been invisible, ever been underestimated, ever been dismissed. Subscribe to Boundless Love Tales because we tell stories about people who find their power not by being loud, but by being true. Drop a like if you believe you can be both humble and powerful. Comment and tell me, what would you do if someone invited you somewhere just to mock you? Because Anna's response is the masterclass we all need.